Have you ever completed an Inktober? I did for the first time last year, but it kicked my butt.
Round 31. Draw! Champion!
This year, I'm going to be prepared. I plan on doing all my pieces with inks only. I was gifted this beautiful set of colored glittery inks that came with 2 glass dip pens and a couple other cute little items. I'll play around with those in a little bit, but I am curious to know, have you ever completed an Inktober? More than one? Let me know down in the comments what prompt list and medium you used. Now, let's take a look back at last year's Inktober pieces. I'll put the prompts for each one up on screen as I show them. I used like 3 or 4 different prompt lists and just chose the prompt I like for each day. Sometimes I used multiple prompts together that I got a funny idea for. I got way over ambitious and decided to go with full colored marker pieces for each drawing. And I was still super new with markers at the time, so that did not help. But whatever prompt list I was using, I remember having such awesome ideas for each prompt and felt excited about them, but I wasn't able to execute them like I had planned in my head, so while I still think they're cute, they're a bit lackluster. You can see that I didn't have any set theme. There's animals, people, buildings, even inanimate objects. I also used multiple mediums. I mostly used markers, but sometimes I used paint and sometimes I used ink. I did plan out each drawing ahead of time, but thinking of the concepts and drawing them all out took so much time. This Inktober, however, I'll be setting myself up for success by choosing one theme, one medium, and one color: black. Even though I'm only going to be using black, let's still take a look at these beautiful colored glittery inks. My friend Natalie got me this set as a surprise gift. I'll have it linked below if you're interested in it. It has 2 glass dip pens, one for thicker lines and one for thinner lines. It has 18 gorgeous colors that I'll show you swatched out in a moment. It comes with this little glass resting piece for your glass pen to lay on, and also this tiny glass that I use to hold an ink wash. These are the 2 glass dip pens, and each bottle has a color code and swatch on the label, but there aren't any color names in English. Okay, so I swatched all the colors and boy was it messy. These bottles have rubber stoppers under the lid that prevent leaks, but pulling them out can make ink splash out of the bottle, so I recommend wearing gloves. You can see how much ink got on my gloves, and this paper towel is stained just from opening the bottles. Also, I had to fix the color order and put them in rainbow order. The swatch paper doesn't show it well on camera, but I think all of these have gold mica powder that give them a beautiful shimmer. You can see it much better in the bottles before they're shaken up. This is the purple ink, and you can see the gold is gone after I shake it. And now compared to a blue ink that's not been shaken, you can see the gold sediment at the bottom. As much as I'd love to use these inks, I plan on only using black for Inktober, so I'll just put these on the shelf to wait till another time. This year, I really didn't know how to go about choosing a prompt list to work from. There's always so many out there, and most October lists will have Halloween related stuff, and I just don't roll with that. So for whatever reason, I thought, I'm gonna look up cute pictures of mice. And you know what? I've created a new prompt challenge, MOUSETOBER. Okay, so I didn't create it. There are no original ideas left in this world, but anyways. I don't normally draw animals. I usually favor people and people portraits, but I wanted to push myself a bit outside my comfort zone. I decided to do 4 practice mouse drawings, and then I would play around with the dip pens and some ink wash. It was easier than I thought it would be for me to simplify the shapes of each one, and the great thing about simplifying shapes is that it helps you get a correctly proportioned sketch faster. I recognize that with a lot of my sketches, I tend to focus more on the lines and not the shapes, which would have me erasing and redrawing the same thing a million times. Couldn't get the nerve of the co's. Because I couldn't get the curve of the nose right. Why does my brain do that? Now that I have my sketches done, let's make an ink wash. I am absolutely new to this, so I'm just going with my gut. I took a dropper and mixed several drops of water with just a few drops of ink. This ink did not come with a set, it's just some ink I've had for a while. It's very pigmented, so just a few drops will be fine. And don't use your glass pens to mix because the tips are very delicate and can break if you're not careful. I'm starting with what I know best from watercolor, and that's the wet on wet technique, where you wet the area and then lay down the color. I was going for a fuzzy effect, but I didn't really achieve it. This little guy was my test mouse, and he is the roughest looking out of all of them. I started getting the hang of it with the second mouse, so just hang in there. I got some different colored ink on the paper somehow and then smudged it, so this mouse ended up on the thicker side because I was trying to hide the smudge. I was trying to work fast because this ink dries pretty quickly, especially when it's laid down thin, so you have to blend it out before it dries because there's no lifting it. It is ink after all. Then I started using the glass dip pen to add in some fur texture and of course the whiskers. And now let's try this again with the knowledge we just gained. The mouse in this reference photo was a white mouse, and I wanted to make sure I differentiated him from the background, so I added a darker ink wash behind him. When drawing white fur, I found it's most believable when you work with the negative space, so instead of trying to actually paint or ink in the white fur, which is basically impossible to do because I'm working with white paper, I'm focusing on shading his belly, his neck, and his chin, and also the background. Doesn't he look like he's doing a little pull-up? Oh, he's so cute. I did put a hint of some fur in with the dip pen, but kept it mainly in the shaded areas, and also used an even more watered down ink wash than I was using before, so the lines are really faint, and even lifted some of them while they were still wet with a paper towel so they'd be even lighter. I absolutely love this mouse. I think it's probably the best thing I've ever drawn. Maybe I'll quit portraiture and become a mouse artist. And we can't forget his whiskers, which are white, so I used a Posca pen for that. The third mouse, I think I did a lot better with the values than the first mouse.
What'd you say?
Since I only had one small glass of watered down ink wash, to get a darker wash, I'd load my paintbrush with water and then stick barely the tip of it in the ink jar, and that would give me a darker wash without having to add more ink into my glass. I still utilized mainly the wet on wet technique for most of these drawings, and anything that needed a hard edge I'd use the glass dip pen for, so like the outline of the feet or the tail or the eyes and around the nose. I wasn't sure at first if I would like using dip pens, but it was a lot of fun and they definitely gave me more control than using a paintbrush, especially on certain areas that needed a finer, more precise line. It was really fun to make the fur texture with the glass dip pens, and I also think this mouse's fur turned out more believable than the first one. Our fourth little mouse here is just peeking up over the counter, and this one was a bit trickier for me because the reference was of a black mouse, so I had to be really bold with my values. It's always scary adding a lot of color because I'm worried I'll overdo it, and with this being ink, I know I won't be able to lift any color up. So I did probably 4 or 5 layers of color, and I'm glad I did because I think this guy turned out super cute too. I used the paintbrush along with the dip pen for the fur texture because I wanted to try and keep building up the values in certain areas with the fur. As I was using the pens, I found myself thinking, what exactly is the point of dip pens? I mean, it's just like a regular pen, but without a reservoir for ink, so they're less convenient. They can be super delicate, so you can't accidentally drop them like you can a regular pen, so there's another negative convenience point. It's one of those art supplies that to me just seems like you could get a very similar result with a more modern pen, and you wouldn't have to worry about ink blots or knocking over your ink pot or having to use gloves just to access your colors. But I will admit, there's a certain charm to them, and I can't understand why people could enjoy using them. I do plan on working with them more in the future, and hopefully I'll gain some insight. Since dip pens are widely used for calligraphy, I thought I'd use them to add my signature and a date stamp. Here are the final drawing paintings of my Inktober MOUSETOBER prep. What do you guys think? Have you ever used glass dip pens or even metal dip pens? I haven't decided yet how I'll go about posting for MOUSETOBER yet. I might do shorts once a day, or I might post once a week with the 7 drawings from the week. Let me know down in the comments what you guys would like to see. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to my husband, Mr. Artsy Pineapple, for all the amazing camera work he does for me. He may not understand it, but he supports me, and that's all that matters.
Sweet hot.
Kind of blocking the light.
fine. I moved. You're blocking my vibe. Bad.
You ain't got no vibe.
Okay.
You do it.
Okay, ready?
You have to watch a tutorial how to do your hair?
Yes. It's difficult
Mom
to get a
has a
specific.
tutorial. Mom has a tutorial. It's revered. Mom doesn't have great hair. She has to use tutorials.
Mine still doesn't even look as good as hers.
Tutorials.
All right, Bentley, look out. Stay back. Bad kitty.
Mom!
Watch out for the cord.
Mom!
Bad kitty. It worked.
Don't touch me, kitty.
Okay, ready? Don't look at me.
Smells.
You didn't like that? You didn't like that? Bentley!
Spray me! You smell so bad.
Quit! Quit recording. That was pretty good. Okay, you can get up now.
I think he's actually dead.